Hello, and welcome to another episode of Under a Rock with Brielle and Guerlain. Today we are continuing our discussion about Avatar: The Last Airbender, specifically Book 2.
Yes.
This is episode... This episode we are talking about episodes 10,
10.
11, and 12.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's jump into it.
Yeah. I got my notes.
This is a really good one. Wan Shi Tong's library.
Yeah.
The library.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of tens, because Wan is like what, 10,000 in Japanese, Chinese.
Oh, I don't know.
So it's like Wan is 10 in a language.
Yeah.
I don't know which language. And this is episode 10.
Oh.
I thought that was kind of cool.
That is interesting.
Mhm.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Mhm.
So the gang is basically having little vacations. Everyone gets to choose a place that they want to go. And so Aang chose this little like field area, and he plays on a flute, and all these like gophers pop
Mhm.
up and like harmonize with him, which is so cute. Like once again, I'm just reminded of how adorable Aang is, and just like how he really tries to keep everything kind of light and breezy, which makes sense. He's an airbender, but
Right.
he's just so like happy and go lucky all the time. I just like it. Also, like Sokka's like, Aang, we don't have time to like have all these stupid little vacations. Like we have to trade. And Aang says, I trained my arrow off. And I just was like, let Aang say fuck. Let Aang say ass. Let these kids curse.
Let them do it.
And so they go into this little like bar, like cantina thing, and this guy orders a drink, and the bartender makes it with like his swords.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, points for creativity and points for being extra, but also like a knife would probably be easier. Like a knife would probably be easier and safer.
Yeah.
Like I get it, you're doing the most, but like maybe.
And also think about the sanitary aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like, does he wash his swords?
I imagine
after?
he would if he's using them like knives, but at the same time, they're just so big. Like, it
Yeah.
just seems so unwieldy. Like, you're doing it to show off, which I get it.
Mhm.
Listen, you got to make your money, and this is a desert, like, town, but, like,
Still.
And basically, the gang meets this professor who has dedicated his life to finding this mysterious library. And this library is supposed to have all kinds of knowledge in it. And Sokka is like, oh, they'll probably have knowledge on the Fire Nation. Let's go. My field trip is to the library.
So dramatic.
So dramatic. Also, something like really, really small that I just found hysterical. When the professor, I believe his name is
Zhang.
Zhang, was explaining like the library and his life and what he was doing and like basically giving exposition. Aang is just slurping his drink the whole time, and it's so funny because it's like in the background, so it's not really like loud in your face, but it's just like the whole time, and
didn't
I
catch on
was
to that.
dying. It was so funny to me because like Sokka and the guy are having like a very important conversation, and they're setting up the plot for the episode. And like Aang is just sipping his drink, like completely unconcerned. And I just thought that was so funny.
Just a friendly reminder that Aang is a child.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I thought the little joke where Toph is just like, hey, what about me? When do I get to pick my vacation? And Sokka's just like, you haven't worked long enough. You gotta pay your dues.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny.
You gotta
And,
work for the company 6 months before you get paid overtime and vacation time.
Ain't that the truth? And when Professor Zhang was like looking at Aang, he was like, "Oh my God, you're a living relic." And Aang's just like, "I try." I thought that was funny.
Yeah. They decide to like go to the library and and it's like hidden basically. They can't find it. This episode is like honestly, Toph is so funny in this
Mhm.
episode. She is just cracking joke after joke at everyone else's expense because they keep forgetting that she's blind. Like the whole "there it is." That's what it would sound like if one of you guys spots it. Like classic humor. Classic humor. It's so funny.
But that was kind of coincidental about this was that she did this,
Yeah.
that you can't see me,
Yeah.
and with the whole the blind bandit meme. I just thought that was they should have done a clip like they should have put that in there and her going.
Oh, really?
Like, that would have went with it.
Yeah, but basically the gang realizes that the library is buried underground, and they're trying to figure out like how to get into it, and they see a fox spirit, which
Mhm.
is really, really cool. And so they go into the library. Toph stays outside with Appa because as she says, if you've held one book, you've held them all. Which like is very funny. Also, do they not have Braille in the Avatar world?
It
I
doesn't
guess
seem like
not.
it. No.
I guess not. That's Toph will invent Braille.
Yeah.
She's capable enough. Oh, something else that I just really like as like a little tiny like thing that I noticed. I love that they draw Toph's feet dirty.
Mm.
Like whenever you see her feet, they always have like dirt on them. I just love that. That's such a small little thing to include, but I think it really speaks to the attention to detail. Because obviously like she's barefoot, and so obviously her feet would be dirty. So the fact that they draw that consistently, I think really speaks to the like care and the attention to detail that the showrunners and the animators have. Because other cartoons might not do that. They would just be like, "Oh, there's her bare feet," and we can extrapolate the rest.
Right.
Or like the fact that like Sokka has his bag with him. I mean, obviously, he would have his bag with him. He bought it, he has it, he's going to a library, he would use it to take stuff. But other cartoons might not draw it. Other cartoons might not like have it be part of his like animation just for lack of ease, or not for lack of ease, for ease. So I just really appreciate that, you
Yeah.
know. So they get into the library and they meet Wan Shitong, who's a giant owl, voiced by Hector Elizondo.
Yeah.
Which, when I watched it the first time, I was like, "Who is that voice? Who is that voice? I know that voice. Whose voice is that?" And I'm like thinking and thinking. I go, "Oh, it's Joe from Princess Diaries."
Oh, that's what that is? Oh, I
Yeah,
wasn't aware. Oh, wow.
yeah, that's Joe from Princess Diaries.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hector Elizondo. I mean, he obviously has a very long and successful career, but that's how I knew him first. And he basically says that he has buried his library because humans keep using his knowledge for evil or using it for things that he doesn't approve of. And they basically like beg and say like, "Oh, we're just like here for knowledge sake." And he's like, "You're lying, but okay." And all of them have to give Wan Shitong something for his library. So the professor gives him like some of his books. Katara gives him the Water Tribe scrolls.
Mm.
What does Aang give him? Aang gives him
I think it's a Wanda poster of him.
yes, a Wano poster. And then Sokka gives him like a butterfly made out of a knot. Which, like, points for trying, I
Yeah.
guess. Because the thing is, like, Sokka is 110% intending to use the knowledge to stop the Fire Nation. He is not there knowledge for knowledge's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they go to the Fire Nation area of the library and it's completely burned down. And you realize that, like, oh, Wan Shitong wasn't kidding. He really he's suffered in a way, because I can't imagine that it's fun or enjoyable for him, this like almighty kind of all-knowing spirit, he who knows 10,000 things, to see his passion being used for such despicable means. Like, I'm sure it doesn't make him happy. And this episode we also see Zhao for a brief second. He was the one, that's where he found out about the moon spirit. He went to the library and he found the moon spirit. And he used it to kill the moon spirit and then kill an innocent person. So
So Juan is right to be wary about, humans.
Oh, definitely.
And
Fucking
I
Zhao.
like that. Yeah.
Fucking Zhao. Ruining things for everyone.
Zhao the Moon Slayer, Zhao the Cockblocker, Zhao the
I forgot about that
Zhao the
one.
worst.
Yeah. Yeah. But so like here's my thing about Wan Shitong. On one hand, I get it. I really, really do. Because he's right. All humans think their wars are justified, whether it's happening now or 10,000 years ago. They all think that what they're doing is right. Otherwise, why would they do it? And it definitely sucks to see this knowledge being used to hurt people and subjugate. So I can understand why he is so weary of humans and wary of them, and so kind of judgmental about what they could possibly be using the knowledge for. But on the other hand, knowledge for knowledge's sake is all good. You know, sometimes it's great to just sit and read for hours, not for any reason. Like, if you ask any person, hey, do you have like a weird interest that you just know a lot about? Do you want to talk about it? They always do. You end up in a YouTube loop or a Wikipedia loop and you just find out weird stuff that, like, you're not going to do anything with that knowledge, but it's just interesting to learn. You know, I know so much about theme park history. Shout out to all my Yesterworld and Defunct Land stands. But like, I'm not using that for anything. I just learned it because it's fun to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, some wars and some fights are more justified than others. Like, you'd think after seeing the damage that the Fire Nation did to his library, Wan Shitong would be a little more accepting of the fact that that Sokka wants to stop them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like, this is skipping ahead a little bit in the episode, but when the professor like is like, oh, I want to stay in the library forever, like, that's all well and good, but what are you going to do? You're just going to read for the rest of your life? What's knowledge if you don't use it, if you don't utilize it, if you don't put it out into the world and like see how it works with everything? You know, this is such a conflicting topic for me because, like, I'm a Ravenclaw. So, like, on one hand, yes, knowledge for knowledge's sake. Learn because it's fun. Learn because it's interesting. But if you don't use the knowledge, if you don't share the knowledge, what's the point? What's the point? You know?
Right.
And Wan Shitong is really out here saying, well, no one can have this knowledge. Some very select people ruined it for everyone, and now no one can have this knowledge. There could be so much medical knowledge in there, so much cultural knowledge in there, especially about the air nomads and the water tribes who've been decimated. Like, this could all be really helpful, but I guess Wan Shitong believes in collective punishment, and that's illegal by the Geneva Convention. He is committing a war crime. Wan Shitong is committing a war crime by engaging in collective punishment. That's wrong.
Well, I mean, I 100% agree with you. I wasn't aware of that little fact there.
Yeah.
What is it called? The Geneva?
Collective punishment, which is like if one person does something wrong, the whole group gets in trouble.
Mhm.
And that's banned in the Geneva Conventions,
Okay.
which is the meetings that the world had after World War II, where they were like, let's lay some ground rules about what's not okay for people to do anymore. They were like, yeah, World War II was pretty bad. Let's just be like, okay, you can't do this anymore. Here's some rules. And if you break those, you are committing war crimes.
And Wan
Shitong is committing a war crime.
hypocrite. But I think that's what this show does well. Like, even though Wan Shitong is this all-knowing, powerful spirit, he still has a lot of flaws and a lot of screwed up ideals. Because exactly, you are 100% right. Like, although, like, yeah, what's the point of having wisdom and knowledge if you're not gonna use it? And sure, some people's gonna use it for wrongdoing to harm others. But I mean, this is where I kind of rolled my eyes because at the end he was trying to kill them.
Yeah.
He was trying. It's like, so, what's the difference between you killing them and then them going out and trying to restore balance by like, you know, killing other people or whatever?
Yeah.
It's just like this show. It goes back to what you were saying about the past few episodes about them mixing gray in it. It's like they show this powerful character. They say he's all knowing, he's all wise, so he's supposed to like be really unbiased and everything he says is 100% right. But we can point out the flaws in his argument.
Yeah.
And that's the gray that the show really does very well that you mentioned.
Yeah. It's really brilliant. It's really brilliant. Also, this episode is really cool because it foreshadows the lion turtles.
Yes.
Which, like, I did not catch the first time. And then Aang was like, oh, look at these cool lion turtles. And I was like, those son of a guns. They introduced it here. Wow, that's really interesting. And basically, like, this episode, Sokka is so goddamn smart. He is so smart in this episode because he just, like, follows all the clues. He sees the various, like, you know, papers and letters that like hint to a dark day in the Fire Nation history, and like he kind of puts it together, and they go to that like planetarium room, which, by the way, a fox spirit leads them to.
Mhm.
Again, my theory that the spirit world loves Sokka, even though he doesn't really love him back, you know?
Right.
Like, that fox spirit really helps them. And he brings them to the planetarium, and Sokka realizes that when there's a solar eclipse, the Fire Nation is weak. And he's the one who's like, well, we have to figure out when the next solar eclipse is, and that's when where it will attack. He's so brilliant in this episode. He
Yes.
really, really is. Like, you know, people, like, again, people, you know, paint Sokka as the dumb comic relief, but he's so smart, and he's so, like, and he's not just, like, smart for smart's sake. He really uses his intelligence, and you can see that here, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, oh man. Like, because without this knowledge, they wouldn't have known. They would have known that, like, oh, the end of the summer is when Sozin's comet comes. That's when everything happens. But they wouldn't know about the eclipse. They wouldn't know that that's a good day to attack. You know, it's just, oh, it's so brilliant. I'm so proud of him.
What I thought was a little interesting, to your point, is so this is where Sokka is shining.
Yes.
Like this is his episode essentially to shine, like showing his wits.
Yeah.
Because Qatar, like once Wang Shitong starts sinking the library,
Yeah.
Qatar just like, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, let's
Yeah.
leave. And Sokka's just like, no, if we leave now, we're never gonna get this information. We gotta get it now. This is where he shines. And I just think it was kind of cool how they showed that for Sokka. And in the next episode, we see where Qatar shines by
Yeah.
holding the group together and like
Yeah.
endearing. Because in the library, Sokka said, no, let's do it. Qatar's like, we gotta get out of here. In the desert, everyone is like, oh, this sucks. We're stuck here and there's no way we're gonna survive without Appa. And Qatar just like, get your asses in gear.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it out. Let's do this. So I just
Yeah.
thought that was kind of a cool parallel.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, but basically Wan Shitong realizes that they are going to be using the knowledge for purposes that he doesn't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
And so he starts to sink the library. And Toph, who's outside and is in an element that she can't really bend well, manages to hold the building up. This is a 12-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
As we know right now, she is a really, really good earthbender. We don't know how good, but we know that she's like a really, really, really good earthbender. So she's working with an element that she's not super comfortable with or skilled in. And she is holding up an entire building. Like, the power that she has, it blows my mind. Because, you know, I don't think that other earthbenders, even adults with years of training and practice under their belt, could do what she did.
Yep.
Like, and it sucks because she's trying so hard, and that's when Appa gets taken. And you can see that she's like trying to save Appa while also trying to keep the spire up so they can leave. And it sucks because it must have been a really hard like kind of decision for her. Like, does she save Appa or does she save her friends? Like, can she trust them to get out before the spire sinks? Can Appa take care of himself? Like, I feel bad for her in that moment. And she's like basically like fuzzy in her sight, you know?
Yeah. What was your first reaction? Like the first time you viewed this, what was your reaction when all that was happening and Appa was getting captured? Like, did that catch you off guard? Just like, whoa, what's going on?
I kind of expected those sandbenders to come back because they foreshadowed them in the beginning. Also, side note, those sandbenders remind me so much of Tusken Raiders from Star Wars.
So, yeah.
You know, like the ones that like steal the droids and stuff. Yeah.
I'm sure that's the reference.
Tusken Raiders and the Jawas. That's also the Jawas and the Tusken Raiders. They remind me of them. Which, you know, maybe that was like a little homage. But yeah, I was expecting them to come back and I didn't know when. And so when they showed up to take Appa, I was like, oh no, it's getting real. Oh no. And then the professor decides to stay in the library and just, I guess, read his life away. Which, you know, I mean, if that makes you happy, dude, that makes you happy. But no one else is going to learn your knowledge. So
Yeah, no point.
for what's the point? Again, what's the point? Like, yeah, it's all fun to be like, I know a lot of weird stuff about Disney World in the 1960s. But like, if I don't do anything with that knowledge, what's the point?
Yeah.
The point is, I annoy my friends and family with it at parties. But, um, but yeah, so the gang manages to get out of the library and it sinks into the ground forever, which sucks. And they realize that Appa is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And Aang, like, breaks. He really just breaks. And the next episode is just him just out of it. Like, he is not okay.
Not himself whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that episode.
Mm.
I just like, oh man, that library is such a cool concept. I wish that Wan Shi Tong was like nicer about it.
Yeah. I mean, what you gonna do?
Yeah. Also, like, I say this as a joke. I understand that the he who knows 10,000 things is meant more as a metaphor, that he knows like a lot and that he's like all knowing and all powerful, and 10,000 is such a large number, so that's why they give him that number. But I think it's really fun to imagine that it's literal. Cuz guess what, Wan Shi Tong? I know 10,000 things too. Most people know 10,000 things. The alphabet is 26 things. I know A, I know B, I know C. Like, the fact that I know how to spell my name is a thing.
Mhm.
Like, like, I know that they mean it more like metaphorically and spiritually, but I just think it's fun to think about it literally.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, knowing how to breathe
It's the thing.
is a thing. Knowing how to walk, knowing all of the British kings and queens in order is a thing. Which I do know. Okay, so on to episode 11, The Desert.
Yes.
So this episode, I feel really bad for Aang in this episode. It must be so hard to lose Appa. And just because not only is Appa his friend, but Appa's also their like mode of transportation. So it must feel so helpless to just be stuck in this desert when they normally could just be up and out, you know? And I feel really bad for him.
We start this episode off with Aang coming at Toph's neck. Man.
Yeah.
And it's just a huge contrast between like when he was learning earth bending and like now because like he didn't stand up to Toph before.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, they had like a little sibling back and forth. But in this one, he's just coming for her. It's like, you never like Appa. Like, you should have done more. You didn't care.
Mm.
And I also feel bad for Toph here because she she's already blind, but now she's blind because all the sand.
Yeah.
And like she's just kind of just taking all this punishment. Like she doesn't really fight back.
Yeah.
Like she does says I tried and everything, but after that, like she was like silent.
Yeah.
I felt really bad for her.
I think it's probably because she knew that Aang needed to get that out.
Mm.
Because Aang didn't mean it. Like, I don't think Aang meant it. I think he knew that Toph did all that she could. But you know, at the same time, he's a child. He's a child. Yeah. He's all alone in the world, basically. And one of the things that connects him to his family, to his people, is gone. And he couldn't even do anything to save him because he was off somewhere else. And I'm sure that he feels guilty and he's kind of pushing that guilt onto Toph in order to make himself feel better.
Mm.
You know, and it's sad. You know, it's just all these kids are in so much pain. These poor kids. Someone get these kids therapy. Like, it just, you know, I feel bad for Aang, for Toph. I feel bad for all of them in this episode. It's a tough episode.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Zuko and Iroh are on the run, and they meet up with the Rough Rhinos again.
Mm-hmm.
And Iroh is like, oh, the Rough Rhinos are like a skilled military group. They all have a specialization in a specific type of weapon. They also have a singing group, which I just love. I love little things like that show the kind of like mundandity of like everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, he's like a killer, but like he also likes to sing, you know?
And I like how they didn't just brush it off. Like, damn, I forgot his name that fast. But like the leader, he was just like, "We're not here for a concert. We're here to like get you." What's really cool about Iroh in this episode, because you know he's like moaning and groaning about his injury that he suffered from Azula.
Yeah.
And at first, like you would just think like, "Oh, he's really causing pain." is really causing him pain, and it might just be. But what and I caught this watching this now for this episode was that when the leader was just all like, no, when Iroh said, "Oh, this is a surprise," and the leader was like, "Oh, if this is a surprise to you, then like you lost a step." But I'm thinking like, no, wait, Iroh stopped. He made Zuko stop for a reason because he probably didn't know that they were being followed.
Yeah.
Because like he took them out like swiftly, like
Yeah.
with no,
It was
like,
no contest.
yeah, no
Yeah,
contest
him and
whatsoever.
Zuko were like, done, bye.
So I was like, yeah, Iroh knew that they were being followed.
Yeah. And I love that like Zuko's like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if you had friends that didn't want to kill you? And Ira's like, huh, I never thought about that. That's a good idea. I should get friends that don't want to kill me.
Like, really, Iroh? Now you're thinking about that?
Yeah. Um yeah, and then it cuts back to the desert. They're all like, really, really thirsty, and they're just walking in sand. And Sokka sees a cactus
Mm-hmm.
and decides to just drink the juice that's inside. I mean, in a way, he's right. There is liquid in cactuses, and you can drink it, but it's probably not a good idea to drink it if you don't know what type of cactus it is. So he drinks it, and he and Momo just trip balls. They are just gone down for the count. They are just off, like dazed and confused. It's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Cactus juice. It's the quenchiest. It'll quench ya. Like, and he's like doing the worm.
Right.
I just like, I like, who I kind of feel bad for in this episode? I feel bad for Katara because
Yep.
she has to deal with all this. Like, she has to take care of Aang, who's off being ridiculously angry and sullen and desperate, flying off and coming back and flying off and coming back. She has to deal with Toph, who's literally blind right now, who needs a lot more help than normal. And she has to deal with her brother, who's just like floating along, saying nonsense and like, probably just like getting into all kinds of mischief. And they're just in a desert. Like, I feel so bad for Katara.
She holds it together.
She does. They would like, in this episode, they would have died without her.
Oh, yeah.
But in general, they would die without Katara. She is the one, like, technically, like, she is the mom of the group. That goes without saying. But she holds it together. She is the one who helps them stay on task, stay focused. She understands that you have to just get stuff done, that you can't always, like, have fun and play. And sometimes they call her like a wet blanket for it, but it's important that she has that kind of focus point of view. They need her. They really need her. And this episode shows how much they need her.
Mm-hmm.
They need her point of view. They need her heart and her willingness to stick together with people. Like, it's just so important.
Yep.
Zuko and Iroh end up in the same little town that the gang had been in the episode before. And who else is there but the guys that are searching for Toph? And I kind of just like, it'd be really fun, a spinoff about those two guys. I want to know about, that whole situation because they're two very different people. They're two very different people with very different like ideas and morals and stuff. And they're just like traveling the Earth Kingdom searching for a little girl. I think that the hilarity that ensues must be wonderful. I would love to see their adventures. That should have been a comic.
Never thought about that. Yeah.
And Iroh sees a pie show table and he plays pie show. He plays the White Lotus Gambit. And we are introduced to the idea of the White Lotus Society, which is really cool. Because as of now, we don't really know what it is. We just know that it's people who help each other. And we know that they're like super secret and everything. And the man is able to get Iroh and Zuko tickets on a ferry to Ba Sing Se, so they can be refugees, so they can get away from Azula, so they can basically hide and be safe, which is really nice. Yeah.
I thought it was really cool. It was like when they were putting the pie show pieces. It was almost like a James Bond-esque type moment.
Yeah.
You sit down, you say like a secret message, and then they respond, and it's like, let us begin. And that was really really nice.
And also, it was very like Queen's Gambit, which is a show. Because Pie Show, I think Pie Show is like a real game as far as I know. But it also I think has allusions to chess, and so that's really cool too. So we're introduced to it, but we don't really know exactly what it is yet. We just know that they like that Iroh's a part of it and they help people out and they're super secret.
Yes.
Again, these episodes kind of plant little seeds for us for the future, like the Lion Turtles, the White Lotus Society, that sort of thing. Um, Something else I want to mention is this episode has really beautiful coloring.
Hmm.
Like when they're in the desert and like the sun is setting and it's going from like reds, pinks to blues, it's really, really pretty. I really like the coloring in this episode. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
They always do such a good job with
Yeah.
the scenery.
Yeah. They basically they figure out that they can kind of travel by the stars. So Katara sees a cloud and she's like, "Oh, Aang, can you get some water from that cloud?" And he does, and she's like, "Oh, there's not a lot." And he just blows up at her. Again, like this episode is just really showing us that at the end of the day, Aang's just a kid,
Hmm.
and kids get angry, and he has a lot of anger in him that I think he doesn't allow himself to feel. This is me being like a psychologist. Um I feel like Aang has so much anger in him just from his entire like life situation of being like the last of his kind and dealing with all this pressure. And in these episodes it really comes out and it's scary. Aang when he's like angry and mad is very scary, you know.
Yeah, not a nice person.
No, he's not. Which you know is sad and I think it's why again, I think it's all things that point to why he makes the decision that he does at the end of the show. Because I think he realizes that his anger is not healthy and it's not conducive
Mm.
to what he wants to do. And that when he becomes angry, he loses his control, you know? So they manage to find a giant, like, rock in the middle of the desert. And Toph is like, "Ah,
Finally.
rocks." She does like a little snow angel in the rocks.
Mhm.
And Sokka's like, "Oh, I think I'm like not high anymore. I was dancing with a mushroom a couple hours ago, but I'm good now." Um,
Licks
and
the honey. Or
and he licks
whatever.
the honey off the wall. Sokka could be a geologist, I tell you, because all they do is just lick rocks all day. And I say this as someone who knows several geologists.
Yeah.
Part of like identifying rocks is to lick them. Anyway,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
it's weird. It's really weird. So I just love that Katara's like, "You've been high on cactus juice for a day and a half, and you're just gonna lick some random honey off a wall." Like,
He's just like, I have a natural sense of curiosity. I
Yeah.
was like, okay.
also, he was high for a really long time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure the fact that like he didn't have any food in his stomach, he was probably dehydrated. The heat was was probably aiding that. He was high for a very long time. He was
Mhm.
high for like a day and a half. And poor Momo, who's an animal, like it was probably worse for him. Like, no wonder they were just kind of like floating in the breeze with like a mushroom cloud. Like,
Yeah, no idea what the hell was going on.
no, they had no idea. Um yeah, so they realize that the caves that they're in are actually like a hive for these like vulture bee things or vulture wasps. Again, why are all the animals that are giant so scary? What is with that?
Right.
I don't get it. It's scary and it's gross. I don't like it. They start attacking the bugs, and one of the bugs steals Momo, and Aang goes after it and kills the bug. And I think that's a really important moment because Aang very rarely kills people. I mean, there is that like joke around the fandom that like Aang has been killing people the whole time because like the moves that he does like clearly kill people. But like, you know, that's just a joke. But
Mhm.
like this is really the first time that Aang like actively kills someone on purpose
Mhm.
because he's so angry and probably so scared and so frustrated that he just kind of goes berserk. And this episode shows us like the true power of the Avatar when they're unhinged, which is scary, you know?
He went, well, not yet, but like when he went to Avatar state, he was ready to go full Kyoshi.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Even Momo, after like he killed that buzzard thing, that Momo was just like, okay.
Yeah, he's like, "I'm gonna crawl really quietly behind you." So they manage to defeat the bugs, and some more sandbenders come, and Toph is like, "Oh, that's the one who stole Appa," and Aang loses it. He
Mhm.
starts like destroying their boats, and he like gets his blue eyes, and like you hear like the reverberation of his voice, and it like echoes, and he's about to go, like you said, full Kyoshi on these people. He's rising, and the only thing that like brings him out of it is Katara.
Mm-hmm.
And on one hand, I think it's so sweet that Katara's love for him and his love and respect for Katara is what like stops him and saves him, because he knows that he can be safe with her. He knows that he can cry with her, and and she trusts that he won't hurt her even in the Avatar state. But at the same time, like I can't help but also just feel a little bad for Katara that she has to put up with this.
Mm.
Like, I mean, she signed on. She signed up for this, and she cares about Aang. I'm not saying she doesn't, but it must be really exhausting to have to just look at your friend who is just going crazy, and you're like, well, I guess it's up to me. I gotta stop him.
Mm.
Like no one else kind of takes on that burden the way that Katara does.
Yeah.
Time and time again, Katara is the one to kind of pull Aang back. And on one hand, that's a good thing because Aang needs someone to kind of pull him back. And it's great that he and Katara have so much love and trust and care for each other that they can do that for each other. But on the other hand, that's a lot to ask of a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
That like you have to stop this almost all-powerful being. But she does.
She does.
You know, and she holds him and she lets him cry.
And to add to your point, this was hinted at in the very first episode when they're trying to force the Avatar state and everything. Katara says, when you're in that state, I know you can't see yourself, but it is very scary and I get very, very worried about you.
Yeah.
She says that. And then we see this happen. We see Aang get angry. He's in that state again. And Sokka warns the Airbender. She's like, just get out of here. Just run. He grabs Toph. They run. And Katara, she just stands there. And you can see the look on her face. Like, it from what she said in episode 1 of book 2, you could see that in her face. Like, she doesn't like when Aang is like this.
Yeah.
It's like she just, you know, her ground. She just stands her ground. She's like, no, we're not gonna let this happen again. Grabs him. And I didn't notice before until I watched it again for this episode that Katara's crying. I didn't know that. I didn't know she cried too.
Yeah.
Bro, that really tugged on the heartstrings.
Yeah. Because I'm sure it's a combination of she misses Appa, but also that she was probably upset for Aang that he feels this way and that there's only so much that she can do, you know? Yeah, it's a really sad moment.
Mm-hmm.
They're both crying for like a loss, and it's two different losses and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, the episode's basically over, but the way they end it ends there.
Yeah.
Boom.
It ends there.
Silence.
Yeah. Okay. So on to episode 12.
The Serpent's Path.
Yeah. Serpent's Path. Pass. So this episode starts with the gang trying to relax, having a little bit of fun. Katara is so pretty. Like when she's like out of the water and she's like fixing her hair. Ah, she's so pretty. She's so pretty. Oh man. And they are on their way to Ba Sing Se, and they come across this like group of people. It's a pregnant couple, and I imagine like a sister of one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They never actually say who that third woman is.
No.
Regardless, whatever. And you know what's funny? It's the pregnant couple that Zuko did not steal from.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody comes back. Every action has an equal or opposite reaction. And they're like, oh, we're trying to get to Ba Sing Se. We're going to take a ferry. And they're like, oh, we'll take the ferry too. So they go to like the ferry place, and it's like the Avatar version of the DMV.
Damn.
Like, but that's the vibe that I get from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that like the lady is like, oh, you're the Avatar? Yeah, I've met 10 avatars today. And you're like, oh yeah, that's probably true. Like Aang's kind of famous in this world now. I'm sure there's plenty of people like pretending to be him to get stuff, which like that's bad.
I love how he just like kind of just nods at them in approval. It's
Yeah.
like, you guys tried. I mean, of all the times for Aang to pull out that freaking marble move.
Yeah, that would have been a
that
good
would have
time.
been the time.
But they're able to get tickets because Toph uses her like I'm a Beifong thing, which like I love that. You gotta love Toph using her like richness and her like, you know, celebrated family status for stuff like that. I love that. I love also that like the little attitude that she gets when she does it, because like the ladies like, oh, I'm so sorry, like let me do whatever I can. And she's like, yeah, well, I'm sure it must be a pleasure for you to know me. Like, I love that. I love the like switch that Toph can do when she has to like fit in with high society.
She plays into the role.
um and this is also a bit of a reunion special
Yeah.
because Suki comes back. Oh, I love Suki. She like she grabs Sokka and she's like giving him a hard time, and she kisses his cheek and he's just like, Suki! Like, he's so excited to see her. I love that. Meanwhile, Iroh and Zuko are already on a ferry, and who should they bump into but Mouthweed Boy? It's Jet. It's Jet.
Yep.
He's there with Longshot and Smellerbee. Which the first time I watched this episode, I know now obviously what happened to the others, but first time I watched this episode, I was like, what happened to the rest of them? Where are the other kids? Oh God, where are the other kids? Like, so that's a little sad when you think about it.
Wait,
Something.
what happened to them?
Well, the Duke and Pipsqueak they end up when they go to the Air Temple in Book 3, so they're fine.
Right, they're fine.
But as for all the other kids, who knows?
Oh.
I mean, I guess they probably either kept living in the trees, or maybe they, found other homes, or maybe they're dead. I don't know. Like,
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that I do like about this episode is Iroh has such a good attitude in this episode, because like they do a little bit of a trick on you, because like it's really close up on his face, and he's like, who would have thought that coming back to Ba Sing Se, the place of my greatest military failure, I'd be coming back as a tourist. Like, he's got a really good attitude about it, because I could imagine anyone else being really bitter about the fact that they have to go back to Ba Sing Se and as like a refugee,
right?
As like the lowest of the low. But he's like, nah, this is gonna be great. This will be fun. It's an adventure.
New beginnings.
Yeah. Also, something that I really like is when they're talking to Suki, and she basically says that, like, yeah, me and the other Kyoshi warriors are here to help people. I really love that, because it suggests that it was Aang and his kind of like all the work that he does that helped the Kyoshi warriors realize that they can't keep isolating themselves and they get involved in the war. I think it's so interesting to think about the ripple effects of Aang and what he does, because this is proof of it. Like without Aang coming to their island, the Kyoshi warriors would have stayed there forever. They would have stayed isolationist, and I'm sure the Fire Nation would have come for them at some point, and they wouldn't have really been able to defend themselves. And meanwhile, the Earth Kingdom would probably be taken over by the Fire Nation at some point, and thanks for nothing, Kyoshi. But instead, Suki decides to like actually contribute and help people, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
Love Suki. Like Suki, like the little scene where they're like sitting and talking just made me love her so much, because she like explains that she's like helping people now and she really likes that, and like, oh, Aang, are you okay? Like, she cares about Aang, and she's like, and I'm gonna like go with you guys. Like, I just love Suki. And the pregnant couple is like, oh, we lost our tickets, we lost all our belongings, so they're gonna have to go through the Serpent's Pass, and the gang is like, we'll go with you. Side note, this pregnant couple, like, ugh, like, really? Like, you lost all your belongings? Like, what were you doing that you just lost all your stuff? Your wife is pregnant. Where's she gonna go? Have her sit with all your stuff if you have to go to the bathroom that bad. Like, they're just so useless this entire episode. And they just like, if it weren't for them, the gang could have just been on the ferry and it would have been done and over with. But instead, the gang has to risk their lives to help these people.
But they are pretty annoying. When dude's like, Avatar Aang, you have to help us. I was like, I don't have to do anything. First of all.
Yeah. You know.
But Aang is a good kid.
He is a good kid.
He helps
yeah.
them.
So he helps them. This episode, we also see Sokka's like guilt about Yue, because Suki comes with them. She's like in her Kyoshi warrior getup. She like is ready to help them and guide them, and he spends the whole time pretty much like controlling her and being like hyper vigilant about like her safety. And she's like, Sokka, relax, like I can take care of myself. And you really see like his guilt about what happened to Yue and his paranoia and his anxiety, because here's another person that he really cares about, and he's not going to let the same thing happen to her. And I feel bad for him that he like still has these feelings inside of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then like when Suki and him have that like private moment in the moonlight, he can't kiss her. He can't kind of be open with her like that because, I mean, people joke and it's like, oh, because Yue was watching, but I tend to believe it as he can't kiss her because that would mean admitting that he really cares about her, and that puts her in danger. And if he couldn't save Yue, he's definitely not going to be able to save like Suki, even though like he obviously can and he does save Suki on like various occasions throughout the show, whenever she's there. And it also could be a little bit of guilt because he did like Yue and now he's with Suki, and it's like, well, I don't want I don't want to move on. I'm not ready to move on. I personally think that if Yue and Suki met, they would be really good friends. I think that they would really appreciate each other and like each other. That's my viewpoint.
Like they wouldn't be a couple.
Suki and Yue?
Oh, you said Suki and Yue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I misheard you. I thought you said Suki and Sokka for
No,
some
no,
reason.
no, no. I think that if Yue and Suki met, they would get along really well. And I think also the reason that, okay, so like Suki and Yue, I think it's like a circle a little bit with them, because the only reason that Yue liked Sokka is because of his like kind of personality. I mean, like he was cute, but he was a good person. The reason he was a good person was because Suki had to beat it into him. She had to kick his ass for him to be a good person. So Suki made Sokka good enough for Yue. And Yue, I think, kind of opened Sokka up to like just the possibilities of the world, and I think she also gave him a little bit more, like she grounded him a little bit, because before Yue he was a little bit like he thought he was invincible. He thought that he could do everything. He thought that he could protect everyone. He thought that he was so great. And I think Yue's death kind of humbled him a little bit and made him, I think, stronger and more cautious, which is a good thing. I mean, obviously it sucks that she had to die, but I think the effects of her death only made him a better person, because it made him a little bit more cautious. He thinks things through a little bit more. He's more concerned with helping people and not causing damage than he was before. Not that he was like, I don't know, destroying cities or anything, but
right.
And therefore she made him better for Suki, because, now he, I think, is more on a level with Suki. So those girls, I think, helped each other in their relationships with Sokka,
Yeah, it's really on the nose, yeah.
Yeah. And I, for one, think that if Yue is kind of conscious enough to, like, look at Suki and Sokka, I think she would like her. I think she would like Suki and be like, this is a good person for Sokka to love.
I agree.
Also, I think Suki's death, like I said, opened him up, because if Yue hadn't, I said Suki's death, if Yue hadn't died, Sokka would have stayed in the northern water tribe probably. And I think he would have tried to ask for her hand and marry her. And then he would have been there for the rest of his life. And not to say that he wouldn't have done a good job as like the chief of the tribe, but Sokka was needed elsewhere.
Right.
The world needed Sokka, not just the northern water tribe. And Yue's death, I think, allowed him to do that. So,
I thought the nice little touch that they did with the music with Suki and Sokka under essentially Yue, which I get the joke by saying that Yue was watching,
yeah.
but it was a half moon technically, so
Yeah.
she wasn't fully watching.
Yeah.
They there's a little motif of Yue's, I don't know if it's her theme, but it's like it was the melody that they always played whenever Yue was on screen. Like it was like a little motif in the background.
Yeah.
I thought that was really
That
nice.
is cool. Yeah, I didn't notice that. Yeah. The gang continues along the Serpent's Pass, and there's like a long expanse that's just water. So Katara like makes it ice so everyone can walk across. And Toph like hesitates because she can't really walk on ice because she can't really see. And while they're walking, there's like this giant like sea serpent thing. Again, why are all the big animals scary? What is up with that? Brike, what is up with that? Like, why are they all so scary?
I don't know, big, intimidating figure has to be scary.
Yeah.
And that's when they were underwater. They didn't walk on ice
Oh,
until
you're
they're on
right. You're right. I'm
surface.
skipping ahead. I'm sorry. That's cool though. That
Mhm.
like Katara like kind of Moseses her way, and then they make like a little bubble. That's really cool. Actually, that's a really cool application of water bending.
Yes.
No, you're right. So the sea serpent is there, and then Toph like raises the ground, and that's when they make the ice bridge.
Yeah.
Right. You're right. And Toph falls in the water, and she can't swim. Poor thing. And so Sokka's like, I'll save you. And he goes to take off his shoes. But Suki just jumps in the water like the badass bitch that she is. And she saves Toph. And she's like, I don't care if my makeup gets ruined. I don't care if my clothes get wet. I'm saving this little girl.
And then Toph has a very revealing moment.
Yeah.
Sokka, you saved me, my hero. Mwah. And Suki's just like, no, it's me.
And Toph's like, you can let me drown now. Which is so funny.
Mhm.
I love Suki. I feel like Suki is such a great addition to the gang. I really like her when she's in the episodes. And I'm so happy that she ends up with them at the end. Something that's so funny to me is like when the sea serpent is like attacking them, Sokka's like, oh dear sea serpent, take this offering. And he's just giving them Momo.
Mom was just like, I don't know.
Like, Sokka's so funny. I like just offering up Momo as if that would appease a giant sea serpent. Meanwhile, on the boat, they are all kind of having dinner, and they're talking. So like Iroh and Zuko are hanging out with Smellerbee, Longshot, and Jet. And Iroh's like, Smellerbee, that's a very interesting name for a young man. And Smellerbee's like, yeah, because I'm a girl. Smellerbee said trans rights.
Is that what that was?
I mean, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The creators did not say anything, and it's vague enough that it doesn't have to be. It could just be that Smellerbee is a girl and she's just more masculine looking or presenting. But I like to believe that Smellerbee is trans, because why not?
I mean, yeah. As a kid, that always confused me. I was like, so is she a girl? Is she a boy?
Well, I mean, technically, yes, because she is a girl. I think she's voiced by a woman, and I think she's intended to be a girl. However, I think it's more fun to say that Smellerbee is a trans girl. Yeah. But I like that Iroh's like, and you're very pretty too. Like, Iroh's like, and I support you.
He tries to save it.
Yeah, Smellerbee said trans rights. But I also love like Longshot. He's just a funny character because like he never says anything, but people always like interpret what he doesn't say, and it's always like really wise and profound. I love that. I love characters like that. I love that like joke when characters never speak, but like people understand them anyway, and they always say like really, really profound stuff. I love that. I think that's so funny. A little bit like Phineas and Ferb, how like Ferb doesn't talk, but like he's considered like the smart one. So Jet is basically like, hey, the captain of the ship is eating like a king, and all the refugees have like slop. Do you want to join our gang and like get the food? And Zuko's like, yes, I will do that. Anything to just cause some havoc and chaos. And he and Jet and the rest of the kids like manage to steal the food and give it out to the refugees, which is really nice. And Jet is like, hey, you know, when we get to Ba Sing Se, do you want to like join our gang? Like we're gonna hang out and be together and like start our new lives and everything. And two things. One, aw, that's sweet. Like, well, actually three things. So like, oh, that's sweet that like Jet is like, you know, trying to like be a friend to Zuko and like, you know, open him up and just to the possibilities of what life can be in Ba Sing Se. He doesn't have to be like a refugee begging for scraps. He can have friendship. Two, I really like that Jet is acknowledging that he needs to change, that he did some things in his past that he wasn't proud of and wasn't good, and now he's going to Ba Sing Se for a new life, to start a new, to get a second chance. And I really like that. It shows his growth. It shows that he's trying to change, and I really like that for Jet. I really, really do. Also, I can't believe Jet and Zuko made out. Boyfriends.
Oh please.
Are you telling me? Are you telling me that Zuko and Jet did not make out on the boat to Ba Sing Se? Because they totally did. They totally did.
Yeah.
You're telling me that Zuko wouldn't take one look at Jet and go, yeah, okay. Like, are you telling me that? You're going to look me in the eye and tell me that Zuko and Jet did not, like, make out
Hey,
at least once on that boat. Like,
whatever head cannon floats your boat, man.
they did, and it was amazing. Even though he's a mouth weep boy, it was great. Anyway.
Is that an actual ship that like people do?
Oh, yeah, people ship Jetco.
Jet. There's a name for it.
Yeah, Jetco.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I will say a lot of people do not ship it as like their like end game ship. They'll usually kind of use it as a like a midway ship, or like, cause I mean, the fandom views Jet as kind of a jerk, which he is. He's not necessarily he's not really the best guy in the world. So when they do ship Jet and Zuko, it's usually not a good relationship. It's usually a little bit unhealthy and toxic. And usually it's the midway ship for either a Sokka Zuko endgame or like a Zuko Katara endgame, which is fair. And so yeah, but everyone basically agrees that like Zuko and Jet like were boyfriends on that boat.
All right.
It's a pretty well established like understanding in the fandom.
Okay.
So yeah, so that happens, and then cut back to the gang, and they've made it to the other end of the Serpent's Pass. They're safe, and then that bitch goes into labor. Like, if it's not one thing, it's another.
And even Sokka's just like, right now, like,
Yeah.
can't you hold it in? Like, no, I don't think
Oh
she can.
man. Yeah. So Katara and Suki, I assume, help deliver the baby, which is really cool.
Yes.
I love that Sokka's like, Katara, you can't do this. Like, helping penguin seals give birth is not the same. And she's like, I helped real babies too, Sokka. Like, I'm not an idiot. And and Sokka like brings him water, and he like apparently I guess sees something and he faints. Which I think is so funny. Sokka's had a rough few days.
Yeah.
It's been a rough few days for Sokka. Like, he was in the desert. He almost got killed by an owl. He drank some cactus juice and was tripping on balls for a day and a half or two. Like, he was almost attacked by sandbenders and giant bugs and a giant serpent. He was reunited with his, like, crush, and he was dealing with the death of his, like, first girlfriend. And, like, now this woman's giving birth. Like, it's been a rough few days for Sokka.
Yeah. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's been hard for him. So they give birth, the woman gives birth, and she has a little daughter, and it kind of, I think, gives Aang a little bit of hope, because the whole time that they were on the Serpent's Pass, he was very morbid and cynical, and he wanted to abandon hope. He said, hope isn't going to help us here. We have to just do what we got to do. And seeing this like beautiful like moment of this brand new life in the world, and she's going to Ba Sing Se to have a good life, like, it gives Aang his hope back that the world can change, and it can change for the better.
He rejected a hug from Katara.
I know.
But yeah, this brings him back.
Yeah. And then the pregnant couple are like, yeah, we're gonna give her a name that means something that's unique, and they name her Hope. I mean, ugh. I guess if you want to name her Hope, I guess you can name her Hope.
I mean, it could be original, like, during that time.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, it's not, cause
it's just a little like. I mean, I guess if you want to be on the nose about it. But yeah, so like they go off to Ba Sing Se, and Suki's like, no, I gotta go back to my girls. I gotta go back to the little like refugee bay. How does she get back? I assume does she go back down the Serpent's Pass? Because I imagine that would be really dangerous, especially by herself. Like, how does she get back to the?
She probably took
like a return boat.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I figured, but I was just like, huh, they never actually say how she gets back. Yeah, but she is like, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't like go with you guys, but I'm sure we'll see each other again. And Sokka kisses her because he realizes that he really cares about her, and that she can take care of herself, and he doesn't need to be anxious or guilty.
That was a nice kiss.
Yeah. Sokka's smooth, man. He is real smooth. I know why. I know why Suki likes him. Like,
Yeah, you get it. You
yeah,
get the feel.
yeah. Um. So yeah. So the gang is like, okay, we're gonna go to Ba Sing Se. Aang goes off ahead to kind of like get there right away and see if he can find Appa.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets to the wall, and he's like, oh great. And then he looks, and there's a drill coming right for the wall of Ba Sing Se.
Yep.
Episode
Boom.
end.
The way they had it on Netflix, they had this together.
Yeah, it's weird on Netflix. It was like the wrong episode title as well. It was weird. I think it's just a glitch
I don't remember.
because it's not a two-parter episode.
Essentially, no. I just don't remember if they were aired together. If that's the reason why. Because I'm trying to remember exactly when I came into Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not sure if it was these two episodes or if it was when they were actually in Ba Sing Se.
Mm.
But I don't know. I'm gonna look it up because something tells me that. Because the way they titled it, like the secret of the Fire
Yeah,
Nation.
I mean, I thought it was a glitch, but maybe it's like it's supposed to look that way. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But yeah, so now we start the gang's adventures in Ba Sing Se.
Yeah.
Yeah. All in all, these are some really good episodes.
Mm-hmm.
We really see the various roles of the gang kind of formalizing, you know, like Sokka is like kind of the brains and he's the tactical one and he's always thinking. And Katara is definitely like the mom of the friend group and she's the heart and she keeps everyone on task and focused. And, you know, it's just, I think it's a really good bunch of episodes. We see a lot of the various, I think, facets of everyone's character.
See, this is the reason why a lot of people have issues with filler episodes.
Mhm.
Because Avatar, The Last Airbender, they set the bar so high.
Yeah.
Because they got book one. Book one was pretty much just a setup.
Yeah.
And then once book two came, it was like
Full speed ahead. We're in
full
it.
speed.
Yeah.
Throughout, no signs of slowing down. Like maybe you could count like the Cave of Lovers as a filler episode, but now I wouldn't consider it one.
Yeah.
But they just go ham like back to back, like story. I guess Tales of Ba Sing Se you could call it filler, but
It is a filler episode, but
it's amazing.
it does something. Yeah.
It does something.
Well, that's what I was saying when we were talking about the first filler episode in book one. Like, even though they're filler episodes, they're all so good. They all do something with the time, you know? And I think that's what makes Avatar such a good show, that they really use and utilize their filler episodes to their utmost ability.
And this is why a lot of people had like issues with shows like Steven Universe and Adventure Time because they had such a great story there, but it was nothing but filler after filler after filler. And also the airing dates didn't help the situation
well,
either.
That's not necessarily
neither
the
here or
creator's
there.
fault. Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's just like desert. No, it was library, desert, Serpent's Pass. Now the drill.
Yeah.
Go to Ba Sing Se.
Yeah.
A few fill episodes, but then it's like, all right, Appa. What happened to Appa?
Yeah.
You know, it goes like that. And then book 3, same thing. It's
Yeah.
just- so yeah, this is just like the pacing is just amazing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I have some issues with the pacing in book 3, but that we'll talk about when we get there. But yeah, the pacing in this season is phenomenal.
Yes.
The way that they introduce and carry out storylines is so fantastic. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Anything else?
Oh no.
All right. I think we're good.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We really appreciate your support, and we'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned for another episode next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.